everyone, it's James.
And Stephanie, and we are at the Trek Bicycle Store in Salt Lake City.
That's right, and there's a very specific reason why we're here. It's because on my last 2 road rides, I have had 3 flat tires.
Yeah, and it's totally cramping my running style. If you've followed my Strava, you've seen I had to stop my runs and go pick him up from his rides.
Yes. So this has caused us to investigate something a little more that we've been kind of thinking about for a while, but today is the day.
The Fit RV is going tubeless.
That's right. Both Stef and I ride Trek, so what better place to do it than at the Trek Bicycle Store? And I think we're going to be working with Andy, who's going to make the changeover for us.
All right, and you guys get to watch how this is done. You ready?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hi.
Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Cool.
Here's my bike.
All right, so you're coming in to get it made tubeless today, right?
Yes.
Right.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
We've never done this before, but so what are some of the benefits of going tubeless? Why would people want to do that?
They're numerous. I would say for most people, the number one benefit would be that you get less flat tires. It's as simple as that. You end up with a sealant inside the tube that will seal all the little holes from things like glass or little pieces of metal or thorns or something like that.
Okay.
And another one of the benefits is it's lighter weight. Another one of the main benefits is that you get to run lower tire pressures.
More comfortable.
More comfortable,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's, in addition to that, it's also faster. And the main reason it's faster is because there's less rolling resistance.
You're not bouncing over imperfections.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
When you normally roll over something with tubes in your tires, the tube has to conform with the ground as well as the tire, and there's a shear force between the tire and the tube that gets given away as heat energy. Basically, it slows you down.
Right.
When automobiles went from inner tubes to having tubeless tires, gas mileage went up dramatically. It was something in the 30 to 40% range. So you can get those same sort of benefits on your bike, where you only have half a horsepower to push yourself down the road. So it's really
I've got more than half a horsepower. Come on.
Okay, 0.6 horsepower.
Can you take my tires and make these tubeless, or do we have to buy something different?
Well, looking at what you have here, you have a tubeless compatible rim. So your wheels are good, but your tires need to be tubeless compatible, and these ones are not. So
What's the difference in a tubeless tire versus not?
There's a few differences. One of them is that the way that the bead of the tire, which is the sort of wire that contacts the rim, is shaped so that it's a stronger hold than with an inner tube. When you've got an inner tube in there, it's pushing that bead right up against the rim, and so it just doesn't need to be quite as secure. It'll never come off.
If you got a little gap in there with tubeless, like all your air would come out.
Yes, exactly.
That'd be bad.
Yeah, it's definitely bad, for sure. So that's one difference. Another difference is that they're just tighter fits. So you generally have to use tire levers to install these tires, whereas you might otherwise be able to do it with your bare hands.
Yeah.
Tubeless is a little more challenging to do that. But the cool thing about tubeless is once you have it set up, you pretty much never need to do anything to it except add some sealant through the valve every 6 months or so.
I like that, and that's why we're going tubeless.
Yeah, as an RVer, that's kind of a big deal because we won't have to stock tubes. Like if at the rate I'm flatting, we'd have to stock like 45 tubes for me to go out for a couple weeks. So
absolutely. Yeah, so as long as you put in some fresh sealant depends on where you live, but I would say for an RVer who's going all over the country, figure every 6 months, put some fresh sealant in there. That's a really simple process that we'll show you in a second here. But yeah, if you do that every 6 months or so, that's pretty much all the maintenance that you need to do. Yeah.
Okay, well, all right. It sounds like a winner, so let's get started.
How do we start?
Cool. Well, the first thing we need to do is select some tires. So I see that the tires you're running right here, they have the size on them right there, 700 by 28.
Yeah, and I like those, so I want something comparable.
Yeah, that's a great size, and it seems like about the right size for this bike. Any bigger, it might not clear. So, what I would recommend we go with would be the Bontrager AW2s. These are 700 by 28 tubeless compatible tires.
What does the AW mean?
The AW means all weather. So the idea is this is a year-round, any kind of conditions, any kind of road sort of tire.
Okay, so if I'm going to put on a lot of training miles, that's...
Exactly, especially if you're going to be riding in all sorts of different places all the time.
We are, and we're training for a Majorca Trek travel trip.
Oh, fantastic.
Liberation.
All right.
And so I need something that's...
Yeah, I hear Majorca has very smooth pavement, so these are going to be more than adequate for there. But in between now and then, who knows what you're going to be on.
Right, and I'm going to be training hard, so I need something that's going to hold up.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So our first step would be, of course, to remove the tires. We're going to be replacing the tires and the rim strip. We just got to let all the air out. Let's see, could you maybe start letting the air out of the rear one? Save a little bit of time. So There aren't too many special tools necessary to do this. You use your standard plastic tire levers.
Okay.
With tubeless, it's a good idea to go with plastic ones instead of metal ones. Metal ones have been around more in the past. You don't see them much anymore, but the metal might actually damage the bead of the tire a little bit, the part that that actually creates the tubeless seal. So I would stay away from the metal ones.
You got that, James? Stay away from the metal ones.
I don't have any metal tire levers, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, I would say you don't see them much anymore, but there's still a few of them out there. Okay, so we get that out, and then we're also going to remove the rim strip. That's the thing that keeps the tube from puncturing being punctured by the spoke holes.
Okay.
Now, in the case of tubeless, this is going to be part of the sealing system, so it's going to keep the air and the sealant from escaping to the inside of the rim. So we'll just peel off the old one. Okay, so we just got the rim strip off.
Right.
And you'll see that there's a little bit of a difference between the tires. This is your old tire, and you can feel it's a bit paper thin compared to the new one.
Yeah, it's thick in the middle of the new one.
Yeah, now the new one has some extra thickness in the middle for puncture protection, but it's also got thicker, stiffer sidewalls, which, considering how much smoother tubeless rides, because you've got no tube in there to create the shear force, and you can run lower pressures, this is actually going to be a smoother running tire, even though it's thicker and more armored.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And overall, the whole package, the tire plus the tube versus just the tire, they should be about the same. So in this case, you're getting a more durable tire while not adding weight, maybe even taking a little bit off.
Okay.
Kind of roughly the same. It's. I mean, I'm not good to a gram, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughly the same. Okay, so could you hold this for me, please? All
Absolutely.
Right. So the rim strips that we use for tubeless tires are also more durable than the old one. This is your old rim strip, and it's a thin strip of plastic. It's adequate for what it needs to be. But you feel
difference.
A whole lot of a difference.
It's a lot stiffer.
Yeah, this is basically a sheet of plastic, and that's more like a sheet of fabric. So it's necessary. These are also designed to perfectly conform to the inside of the Bontrager rims. So this rim strip is designed for this rim.
Oh, okay.
There are some setups where you have tape on the inside of the rim.
Right.
That also works. Tends to be a little trickier to set up. But this is how
tricks for
Bontrager
putting that on. You just line up the valve holes?
The first thing you do is you line up the valve hole. And then you take your tubeless valve. Looks just like as if you had cut the valve out of a normal tube. And by the way, if you cut the valve out of a normal tube, it does not work well. So I've tried it many times. For whatever reason, it's not adequate. Okay, so you start by just putting the valve in, and you want to orient it correctly. You don't want to have it across the rim like that. It should be narrow side inside. And then, since this is part of the sealing system, you have to push it in so that the rubber actually goes in there. And this little nut.
Do we need the nuts? Because I always throw those away.
On tubeless, you absolutely do. Yeah, because if you don't have the nut, then the air is going to eventually escape through there. So with the nut, you're actually going to squeeze the valve into the rim to create the seal. So in this case, you definitely need the nut. In fact, you will find yourself tightening the nut later on in the process. So I'm getting about as tight as I can. But once we have this all installed, we'll probably be able to pump it up a little bit more.
Okay, so finger tight is good. You don't need a torque wrench or anything.
No special tools there. Okay, so we started at the valve, and I'm going to put it on. And at this point, I'm going to see if I can just get it on with my thumbs. It is a little tighter.
Looks like you're missing about 6 inches of rim strip.
Well, it is, but it stretches. And it would be okay for you to use, again, a plastic tire lever to do that, because we need the plastic tire lever for the next step. That is for us to, again, create a better seal by using the edge of the tire lever to just sort of press it in all around the edges. Your fingers probably just aren't strong enough to actually do an adequate job. So we use a little bit of a tool to just get that seated in there. Now, once we have the tire on there, it's going to get seated even better, and there'll be some sealant in there to take care of any gaps that might exist. But this is definitely an important part of the process.
Oh yeah, I see it going in.
There we go.
Yeah, you see what I mean?
I see it that way.
Yeah, definitely a difference there. Okay, so we'll just go all the way around with that. And I should mention that mountain bike tubeless setups have been around for a lot longer than road bike tubeless setups for a number of different reasons. They're a lot less finicky. You know,
Really?
Really?
This is doing it on a road setup. You really have to have all the right stuff. You know, you kind of can't make any substitutions.
Well, the pressures are a lot higher. You gotta.
Well, that's a big part of it, actually. Yeah, I bet a lot of mountain bike setups, if you tried to pump them up to 80 or 85 psi, which is about as high as you'll ever go tubeless, they might not actually hold the air, but mountain bikers never go that high, so they wouldn't know.
Okay, so are these tires directional?
Yes, these ones actually are. The tread looks a little different if you go one way versus the other, and molded into the tire says what direction it is right there. So there's a little arrow. And since the quick release on the front wheel is going to be on the left side, we know that this is the direction it's going to roll.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Now, as far as putting it on, it's pretty similar to any other tire. We want to start away from the valve stem. And this is where you'll notice that tubeless tires are tighter than a normal tire.
I'm glad it's you doing this and not me, because...
So with a standard tire, I would probably be able to do this whole process just with my hands. Yeah. But in this case, it's okay to, again, use our best friend, the plastic tire lever, and pry it on. And want to be careful, you know, so that you don't damage the bead. I always like to rate tires on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how hard they are to get on.
Yeah.
This one is just an 8, so not too bad.
Oh, it's not the worst tire ever.
Not the worst ever. So
you got to hop the valve stem.
Side, we want to hop over the valve stem.
Okay.
And then we'll start at the other side from the valve stem to do the final seating. Now, if you had an inner tube in here, you would never want to use a tire lever to finish this process unless as a last resort, because you'd run a significant risk of
pinching the tube. Yeah.
I've fixed thousands of flats, and I have about a 50-50 chance of pinching that tube if I use a lever for it.
That happened to me once at the beginning of a time trial. And I was walking to, and then I just said, pow! I wasn't even on it.
Oh yeah.
Because I had pinched the tube.
Exactly, like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's no tube to worry about. So we're totally okay to use our tire levers, and you're probably going to need to use them. Like I said, they're really tight. Now, the cool thing about it is that when you're out on a ride, if you get a flat, because there's air in there, sometimes it's going to find its way out. Yeah. They are easier once you've been riding them for a while. So these are brand new tires, and they're a lot tighter when they're brand new.
So this will be easier the next time.
It'll be easier. It's still not going to be the easiest, so you want to make sure that you have good tools with you. But if you have good tools and the right technique, that is all you need in terms of brute strength. You should be able to do it with the right tools and good technique.
So I guess that's something new that you'll have to learn, how to fix my tire.
Yeah, fortunately, you travel with a brute, so the brute's trick.
And I'll show you another one of my tricks that makes it a little easier to get on there. So this one's pretty tight, but what I'm going to do is start stretching it. So I'm actually not using many muscles here. I'm just gripping it with my hand and using my body weight to sort of stretch this tire on there to give myself as much extra slack at the end as possible. Yeah. And this is easier if I brace the tire on the ground. See, pretty tight. We'll skip over the valve stem there.
Don't want to pinch my fingers in that.
No, certainly not. Move it over just a little bit more. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
That's work.
So now it's on. Yeah.
Well, I'm not very worried about that coming off accidentally.
No, it doesn't. No, that's not going to happen. Okay, so at this point, a standard pump might put the air in this, but you're really going to have a much greater chance of success if you use a pump that somehow, this is a new kind of pump that sort of makes it into a mini air compressor. If you have an air compressor, that's even better. But you don't need one. You can get a pump like this. And what it does is I've already pumped it up to 170 psi. And that air is all currently in this chamber.
So you've got a little cannon there, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to throw a lot of air in there. Oh, no, it's pretty safe. But okay, so we put the tire on.
So now, why do you need that much pressure? Is that to get it to seat properly?
That is to blast a lot of air in there really quick to get the beads to pop outward and to create a seal. Now, we haven't put sealant in it yet, but we want to actually create this seal first, and
otherwise the sealant would all just pour out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea to do this is to just sort of seat the tire, and then we'll put the sealant in as the last step.
All right.
So let's see how well it does. releasing. We'll hear some popping sounds here. Okay, so now it is at 80 psi.
And holding?
And it's holding just fine with no sealant in it.
That fast.
Absolutely.
It's at 80.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so you could conceivably go ride this, but I would be surprised if you didn't have to pump it up a few times in the middle of the ride. So at this point, what I'm doing is looking around the edge and making sure that it's seated evenly everywhere, that there's nowhere where it's diving into the rim or trying to blow off. Another great way to do this is to just holding the lever, spin it, and then you can just sort of see right there. The movement will make any sort of irregularities really pop out.
Or if you had a swimming pool, you could hold the tire under the water.
Well, yeah, exactly. Totally. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I once tried that in a river. It didn't work. Too many bubbles. Yeah. Okay, so now that it's nice and seated, we're going to let all the air out again. And now we install the sealant. So in order to install the sealant, we're going to use this syringe.
That looks medical.
The Bontrager sealant. Yes, it is medical, actually. The bike industry didn't produce any of these. We just use medical ones.
Right.
Yeah, could you shake that for me for a bit? Now, the sealant has a whole bunch of particulates in it that help seal in case you get a hole, you know. So, so the Bontrager sealant is excellent, but it takes a lot of shaking. So,
how much ends up in?
Well, I looked that up online. Bontrager recommends that for these we put in, I believe it was 40 milliliters. Yeah, 40 milliliters for this width tire.
So not very much.
No, not much at all.
It's a tiny bit.
Absolutely.
So you remove the valve core.
Yes, exactly. So I got the valve core out using the handy little valve core removal tool.
Okay.
So you could also use a set of pliers or a little teeny tiny crescent wrench if you need to.
Okay.
But yeah, the valve core tool helps a lot.
Use a set of bolt rounders. Got it.
Yeah, absolutely. You could use a Leatherman if you needed to.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so in order to use this syringe, we're just going to skip the plunger part and screw the syringe into here. And now we know that we need 40 milliliters. So this has a lock off clamp there. And now we're ready. Let's...
You want me to hold the wheel? Is that easy?
I got the wheel.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So... let's see.
You got the wheel?
I got the wheel.
I think I can pour this in without using the nozzle.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we're trying to go to 40.
It looks like milk.
Absolutely.
Don't drink it.
No, this is basically a liquid latex. So the very first tubeless tires, the people who made them went to art supply stores and got liquid latex to put it in their tires in the early experimentation days. Now, the stuff now is formulated with those particulates I told you about, and also chemically it is formulated so that it doesn't react badly with the plastic of the rim strip or the rubber of the tire. Now I release that and it is just sort of slowly sinking in there.
All right, so just gravity doing its thing. Just like that, easy breezy.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, so now we lock this off and unscrew this from the valve. Okay.
Wow. All right.
All right. Now we just put the valve back in.
Well, that's a relief.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, as well as this sealed last time, because every setup's a little different, but as well as this sealed last time, we'll probably be fine just using the residual pressure in here and pumping it up from there. So let's see. All right, we're going to charge it again. All right. Now we got it at about 80 psi. That's about right.
All right.
And now the last step, really the best thing to do would be for you to just go out on a bike ride. Okay. But if you don't have time for that, it's a good idea to spin the tire some. It's a good idea to shake it, sort of move it around. What you're trying to do is to get the sealant all over everything in there.
And do you have a time limit on that? Like, should I do that? If I was going to go for a ride in 2 days, is that okay?
Well,
or you want to do it right away?
You don't necessarily need to do that, but if you don't go on a ride immediately, don't be surprised if you have to pump the tire up in 2 days. That if the tire will lose more air until you've been on that first ride, because that first ride sort of really cycles the sealant around everywhere. But yeah, you'd be fine to wait 2 days. Just if you do, and you have to pump up your tire, it doesn't mean anything's wrong.
Got it.
But I'm going to give you the best chance as possible of not having to pump it up much by doing this as well. Just sort of bouncing it will shake things around where they need to be. And like I said before, this is a good time to get this nut a little bit tighter because all of that pressure has sort of pushed it out.
Oh,
Again,
right.
you don't need to use tools. Just finger tight is enough. Okay, and
So that's, any other steps? Or that,
Do we need the cap?
yeah, I like the caps. Now, the caps are not necessary. They do not hold any air in there.
Right.
But what they keep from happening is keep this from getting bent by little pieces of gravel or anything that you happen to hit on the road. Because when they're bent, sometimes they don't seal up quite right. So it's really kind of up to you. As a professional, I like to put it on everybody's bikes, but it's a personal preference thing for sure. Yeah.
I'm
tubeless. So now you're ready to ride.
I'm ready to ride.
Well, you're one half of the way tubeless, and I'm 0% of the way.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got 3 more wheels and tires to do, so let's roll through that, and we'll come back at the end.
Okay, so our last step is now we've got everything tubelessized. We're just going to put the wheel on. It's a slang word, perhaps.
Tubelessized.
You're trying to make it stick.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. It seems like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so we got.
Oh yeah, there we
Got
go.
that. Get your quick release set. Okay, so now you're ready
And that's
to go.
it. We're tubeless.
You're tubeless, absolutely.
We're tubeless.
All right. So a few questions I've got.
Okay.
Tire pressure.
Yeah.
What do we run now?
Well, tire pressure is a very personal relationship that you have with your tire, but I would say that as a general rule, you can run 10 to 20 psi less than you normally run.
Wow.
And whatever it says on the side of the tire as the maximum pressure,
Don't do that.
You want to be way less than that. Yeah. So and if you have any questions about that, just go see your local bike shop and talk to them about what might be best for your riding style, for the riding in your area.
Right.
If you're in Salt Lake City, you can come here.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Most of us are on tubeless by now.
All right. Next question, I think, is it's going to happen. We're going to get a flat at some point.
Yeah.
What do we
eventually.
do?
Okay, so basically, you might get flats that you don't even know you got. So that's an advantage. So say you run over a thorn or a piece of glass. Maybe a little bit of air comes out of that hole before the sealant does its job and seals it. So you might find that your tires just have less pressure than when you started. Maybe significantly less. You'll think you have a flat, but don't immediately go pulling the tire off. See if it seals. Pump it back up and keep riding. Chances are you're good.
Okay, so chances are we had a flat and it's taking care of itself. Just add a little air.
That's the whole point.
That's most of the time what happens. Exactly. Or sometimes you'll actually see like that there's something in your tire, like say a piece of glass or something, and when you pull it out, air starts spitting out of there. Rotate that to the bottom. Let gravity get all the sealant down there, and then you'll see it start to spit out some sealant, and then it'll seal.
Okay.
Most of the time, it'll seal. Now, if it's too big a hole and it won't seal, the best thing to go with is some kind of plug. So these are the Dyna plugs. This is something that automotive people and motocross people have been familiar with for years.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you just use this tool to push one of these plugs into the hole in the tire.
Really?
And yeah.
They're very thick.
They are very thick, but they really do the trick. What you want to do is push that in. If you've got something to sort of cut the excess off, that helps, but that's not even entirely necessary. You might feel a little bump as it goes around, but eventually that'll just wear off and you'll just have the plug in the tire.
Plugged tire.
So yeah, so plugs make it a lot easier because you don't have to take the tire off, you don't have to use a spare tube. Remember, there's sealant in there, so when you pull that tire off,
it's going to be a mess.
You might get that sealant up and down your arms. The first time I did one of those on the trail, it was a mountain bike ride, and it was dusty, and I just got covered because I wasn't even trying to keep it from being a mess. If you try, it's usually just your hands that get dirty, but at any rate. So you don't want to do that if you don't have to. So preferably you just leave everything the way it is. If that still doesn't do the trick, then you treat it like a normal flat repair. You just take the tire halfway off, put in the new inner tube. So you're going to want to carry inner tubes with you. This bike does not have any tubes on it. No tube in the front, no tube in the rear. So I recommend carrying 2 tubes, just in case your luck is really bad that day.
But then I can't call Stef and make her come get me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, keep in mind, that that you can carry a tube and a patch kit, but that's not going to help you if you get flats in both. So some might say that's a little paranoid. Most people don't actually do it, but I'd recommend it because
Okay, and then if it's really bad, then you take the tire off, deal with the mess, put a tube in, and that'll get you home.
It will, exactly. Get you home, and then you can keep riding it that way for a while until you get to the bike shop again, or you can immediately set it up tubeless again. The tire might be need to be replaced to make it tubeless again, but you know, it might be fine.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what else do we need to carry in the RV? Other things we would need now that we're tubeless?
Well, yeah, having some extra sealant is a good idea, especially if you're going to be on the road for more than 6 months. Because here in Utah, it's a very dry environment. Our tubeless sealant will last a maximum of 6 months. Back east, it's more humid. Probably last a good bit longer. You know, down in Phoenix, it's probably not going to last as long as it does here. So it's a little bit, you know, area dependent. But having some extra sealant is always a good idea. And if you're going to have the extra sealant, it's not a bad idea to have the syringe to put it in. You could, if you cut this really carefully, you can actually stick this on the end of the valve and pour it in that way.
Wow.
You'll make a bit of a mess, but you'll get the sealant in there that way. So. Oh, it even comes with a little tube most of the time. So the idea is to use that tube to make the connection. I've done it. It's a challenge, but it'll get the job done. So it all
and a valve core tool then,
exactly, right? Yeah, the valve core removal tool. There are many of them out there. The Stan's no tube one is the one we like. Stan's no tube is a big promoter of tubeless in the early days. So yeah, this just goes on there and pulls that valve core out. Again, if you have some pliers, you could get it out. It's just much easier if you have the proper tool.
And we'll list these on our website. So if you click on the link in the YouTube description, it'll take you to the website and you'll be able to see all these items that Andy recommended.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess all that's left for us to do now is to go get on our bikes and ride.
It's time to go ride. Well, thank you so much for all this. It was nice to work with you on this.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. And again, if you have questions or comments, come over to thefitrv.com and leave them there. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.